Good day coders, here's to another video of Let's Build Thumb Token. Today we'll be integrating our authentication. So first and foremost, what we'd want to do is actually set up the layout to land on the actual sign up page. So this is auth, sign in. So this will land on this page when the user is not authenticated. So now let's go ahead and actually create like our actual services, right? So what are our actual services over here? We'll have auth service .ts. So this would be like our actual class. This will be our auth service. So this will have like some sort of like a constructor. Okay. Then over here in like our auth service, what we basically gonna have is we wanna set our user. So we wanna set like our actual user, get our user. So this is going to be our user data that we're going to store in some sort of local storage. So over here, let me just say auth, and I'll just call this auth, right? So what we're going to need for actually setting up our actual user data is we're just going to pass in a user, and over here we'll need some sort of an auth state. So we'll need to create an interface for that auth state. So then we're gonna have an async dot set item. So when we set our item, then we're just gonna use this auth, which is the key over there, and we just need to JSON stringify our actual object, right? So JSON dot stringify. So we're gonna pass in like our actual user. Okay, this needs to be an async, and for this one over here, what we're gonna need is say user data. For us to get like our actual user data, what we're gonna need is, let me just copy this. This is gonna be get item, and from what we're trying to retrieve is auth. We'll use this auth key. So this will say that, and we'll say async here. We want to check if user is not equal to undefined. Actually, if it's equal to undefined, then we just want to return a null. Else, just return the JSON.parse user as auth state. So this is gonna be as auth state. So now let's go ahead and actually create out our actual interface. So we'll need an interface over here, which is gonna be our auth. It's auth state dot interface dot ts. So let me extend this a bit. Okay, so here we'll just need to say create an interface. So we'll export this interface as auth state. So what we're gonna need for our actual auth state is this. So if we come over here, we'll see that we've got a user, access token, and a refresh token. So okay, so we're gonna have a refresh token, which is that string, and an access token, which is also a string, and we also have like our user object over here. So this is our user state. So can create this in one file, and then I'll just say an interface for our user state So here we're gonna need an ID, which is gonna be of type string, an email, which is also gonna be of type string, and a created date, which is gonna be, that's gonna take in a date field, right? So I think that should be fine for now. Then over here we'll need to, nope. So over here we'll need to just import this and actually see if everything is fine. So let me just go ahead and refresh and try to save that out. So now you see that we actually have something here, and we also might need to implement like our log out. So for log out, we'll just say await local storage to clear. So we'll just clear everything in our local storage once the user actually logs out, right? Okay, so now that we've actually like implemented that, so now let's go ahead and actually get what we need when we actually input and click on this, right? So we see that there's nothing actually tied to inputting any information in that form and actually hitting sign in. So the first thing that we'd need to do is come to our sign in, and we want to set up like some sort of a use state. So this is gonna be a use state. So for our use state, we'll just say our auth data and set auth data. Okay, this is gonna use a use state. So this use state is gonna take, so we'll use this interface over here, and what we're gonna do is have our refresh token, which is just gonna be that, access token, just gonna be that. We'll set our user, the ID will be an empty string. So this is basically when we try to initial, no, sorry, my bad. The only thing we need over here is actually the password. So we just need the password, which is empty string, and the email, which is also supposed to be an empty string. So this is basically what we need. So if you want, you can just have it like this: password, the string, and email as a string. So you could do something like that if you like. So okay, so now let's go ahead and actually see, right? So once we actually type out something in these custom inputs, we want to handle that. So when we type in the email, we want this value that we're typing in to be assigned to our actual email field, and the password should also do the same behavior. So how we go about doing that is we'll just have a handle input over here, which is going to be a function. So if you check here in our type custom input, we'll have this as a function which takes an input as a string. So it's input, you can just name this anything because it's just a variable, and this is just going to be a void arrow function. So it's just a void method. So then what we're going to need is on change text, we want to call this handle input function. So this is going to be a handle. So we want to call this handle input, and this function we're going to pass in E, right? So this is just going to pass in our actual text as we type. So we can say text or E either way. So yeah, so now this is all good for now. Alright, so by default this can be set to false, But now we've got an issue. The moment we try, okay, I see we've got some sort of like an issue. So when I type, I'll get like an error, right? So how we solve this is we'll just console.log e, right? Or you can say text if you like. So we'll just have this, right? So basically what you'll see over here is the moment I just type stuff over there, you'll see the text being logged. But there's an issue. The moment I start typing something, you'll see the first character is going to be an uppercase. So how I go about fixing that is over here, I can set something that's called auto capitalize set to none. So all my input fields as I start typing, so I can just go ahead and reload, right? When I start typing, so that should be fixed now, right? But that's not all that we want. So the next thing that now I actually need to fix up over here, so over here, is when I type in the email, what I want to do is set auth, right? And then I want to have this as our previous value, and then this is an arrow function. And basically what I'm doing is take everything right in this object, and the only thing I want to change is just the email. So I'll say email will be set to e, right? Or if you like, you can just say this is the text and then text, so that it actually makes more sense. Okay, so righty, this is the same thing I'm going to do here, but instead of email, I'm just going to use password. So now what you should actually see is the moment I actually test, okay, but let's go ahead and actually now say have a function over here which is going to be const handle submit. So this is going to be taking in an async and an arrow function for that. So we'll need an arrow function for this. So what I want to just do is just console.log my auth state. So this is just going to be my auth data, right? And here in the sign up button, instead of me actually routing, what I'll do is actually say handle auth, and yeah. So now if I go ahead and type something here like that, you'll see the moment I say submit, you'll see I've got the email and password, right? Okay, so this is all good, but there's also something that I need to set up over here, because I want to validate that if an email is actually valid or not, right? So how I go about doing this is I'll need a helper function. So over here, so I'll just have a folder for helpers, and inside my helpers I'll just have a helpers function, a class basically. This is going to be exports class, which is helpers. We're gonna have like constructors, and then within this I'm just gonna have like an isValid email function. So this function is just gonna take in my email to the string. Okay, so what we need to have is like this regex over here, right? So you can just take a moment and pause if you like. So you'll need this regex expression over here, which is going to be the one that's going to be responsible for checking if it's actually a valid email, right? But how we go about it is we'll say using this email regex, we want to just test this against our actual email. So our actual email. Okay, So now in my actual sign-in method, if I try to console log and then is valid email, and then obviously I'll need to have like that helpers class, which is a new helpers. Then if I just say helper dot is valid, okay, this should be is valid email instead of is valid. So this will say is valid email. And then if I were to pass it this auth data dot email, you should see like an input, right? So if I do that, something like that, you'll see this is false, but the moment I say that.gmail.com, this should log that as true, right? So this should be fine for now. Okay, now basically we know that once we input our actual email and password, we should get that data, right? So what is our actual next thing? We know that we're gonna be integrating this with our actual API, so we need to establish like our actual HTTP client or service that's actually going to integrate with our API. So how we go about that is, so I normally like to create like a generic service over here. So I'll create a function which is going to be called a generic HTTP service .ts. So this is just going to be a class which is going to be of generic HTTP service. Did I say this is auth? Okay, this was auth service. Okay, so this is gonna have like our actual constructor, and then here we'll just specify our private. Well, I don't need to say private because I think by default it is private. So this is just gonna have like my actual string, and if I come over here, you'll see that this is my base URL, right? So my base URL is this HTTP. Alrighty, so now what I'll need to do is actually let me see. Okay, so I'll just need like a get. So HTTP get, right? And then I'll have like an HTTP put. And then I'll have an HTTP delete. Then I'll have an HTTP post. Okay, so all of these should be async, right? Okay, so for our get method, what we're just gonna need is that. So just gonna return an Axios dot get, right? So I'll also have like our actual URL. Nope, it's build URL, right? So I'll just have this function over here. So this function will just return for me that. So this is just gonna take my base URL / and my URL. So it's / then URL, and URL is gonna be string. Okay, so what I'm gonna do over here is just have a build URL because I'm just gonna be passing it this. So I'm just gonna be appending this base URL on top of whatever endpoint that I'm trying to gets 2, right? So that's what I'm gonna need for that. Okay, so this is gonna be a put. So URL string. We also need some sort of data in our put method. So this is gonna have data. So put and post should follow the same implementation. So here, sorry, my bad. So this will then use like a delete, and I'll need URL. So it's gonna be a type string. Okay, so now I've got all my methods that I'm gonna need, and yeah, I should be all good with this. Okay, so what do I then want to do? I'll go back to my actual auth service, and over here it should be async. That's clear instead of that local storage. Okay, so I'll then create like a login. So this will be async login. Okay, so with my actual login, how I'm gonna go about it is I first need to create my generic service, which is new generic service class over here. So I'll then use generics dot post because this is using an HTTP post, and then I'll need to pass in like the URL to my endpoint, my actual endpoint, and the data that I'm passing in, right? So for this, I'll need that data, which is of type auth state. Nope. Yeah, this is of type that, which is just gonna need a password, which is a string, and an email of type string, basically. So that's the data, and I'm also gonna need my URL. So within my helpers over here, I'll just add my endpoints .ts, and then this is just gonna be a class which is gonna have endpoints, and within our endpoints I'm just gonna have like some static variables over here, right? So this one will be for login. So it's auth login, and for this you can just give auth and then / login. So let's see. So this is the endpoint we're basically using, right? So it's / login. Okay. Sorry, my bad. And then instead of now log in here, I'm just gonna need to use register, save this, then come over here. So this is auth and then register. So that's what I need, and now I can go ahead and say endpoints dot login, because this is what I'm gonna need for the login, and then this is register. Okay, so this is gonna be a post method, right? Passing in this and that, and then what I'm gonna have is a then statement over there, and this is gonna give back like some sort of like a result, which is gonna have an error function. Then I'm just gonna say this is successful. If I reach that state, this is successful. Set it to true. My data is gonna be results.data, and error would be null because I don't have an error. Then my catch statement over here would be error. So how I catch it is using this. So here my data will be null, but I'll have an error. Alrighty, so this is gonna be set to false. Return response. Yeah, so basically this is what's gonna happen for my actual. Okay, now let me use this as a repetition, then auth. This is auth register. So for my registration, I'm gonna need this over here. Okay, so let's see where it's actually now complaining, right? Okay, so now if I were to go to my layout and actually have this, I don't know why it's complaining, but let me reload. Okay, yeah, this is all good. Okay, so now we can go ahead and try to implement something. So if I go to my auth, yeah, so this is this. So if this is not valid, right, so this should say error, like an invalid email message, right? So this should set up like an invalid email. So I'll have this email error or username error, and then set email error. Okay, my use state sets to that, then invalid. So this is just an invalid email, else nope, just set email error. This is just gonna be that, right? So now underneath this, I'll just have like some sort of like a text. Email. So this should be set out to an email error. Oh, it's not a double. Okay. Okay, now I'll need something like this. Email error. So if that exists, then we'll have this. So the style for this. So when I have a color and set this to red. So basically, so if I enter something like that, and yeah, so this should tell me that, okay, let me just wrap this up in a view. Okay, so now I have it like that. Margin top, if I set a margin top to like 8 pixels, that should be fine. So okay, sure, this is all good. So over here we'll just return because we don't want anything to happen if that doesn't work. So now the next thing that we want to then create over here is, so from our user service, I think I already have like user service. So user service, Okay, user service equals to a new user service. Oh, it's not user service, it's auth service. Sorry, my bad. It's auth service. Awesome. So const response equals to, we try to await our auth service dot log in. So then we're just gonna pass here our actual auth data. Okay, so if results dot is successful, then what we want to do is say our actual auth service dot set user. So we're gonna set our actual users to our response. Before we actually do that, right? Let me just log this, right? So the moment we'll just say logged. Alrighty, so how we're gonna go about doing it is we'll say response.data. That's the data we're gonna have. And then else over here, this is just gonna console an error, which is just our response. So with the error, we're just gonna console log everything. Okay, sure. Now that we have something, let's go ahead and actually test it out. So we do have like a valid, okay, account, and this is password 2. Okay, now let's test it out. So this gives us an error, and where is the error coming from? It says request failed, status 404, right? And now the question would be, why is it failing on a status 404? Okay, if you come over here, so this is our auth login, and then this is our actual post method that we actually posting to. Okay, let's go to our generic service. So this is going to be HTTP that. So it's complaining. Okay, let's see. Password 1. Actually, password 2. So it says success is false. And if we were to come here, let's see if it's actually hitting something, right? So for it to come over here, auth, then let's do this, log. I don't think it's actually hitting anything. This, I don't think it's actually hitting that endpoint from my point of view. See, this is password 2. Okay, this is actually failing, right? And the status I'm getting is 402. Okay. Okay. I think I know. It's because here I'm saying HTTP put instead of that was supposed to be a post. See, this copy and paste, sometimes you make mistakes. Okay, now let's test it out. So if I use this, right, and say password 2, and voila. So now we see that we actually logging in. So within here, we can just go ahead and say, once a user is logged in, just pass it in that data that's gonna go in there. And we'd wanna some sort of await that. Okay, so now paste in password 2. Okay, that should be fine. So once that is done, we would want to say router.push tabs, right? So the moment that is all good, we're just going into the tabs because we want to log this user in, right? So if I were to that password 2, that should be good. All right, so okay, now that we know that we've actually got that, so the next thing that we'd want to do is, if we come over here and we reload this page and say now we enter in the wrong credentials, right? So this should complain, but we want to notify a user that it was like an invalid username or password. Okay, so over here I'll just say login error, then I want to set a login error. So okay, this is gonna be a login error, then just send this up. Okay, let me send this down here so you can actually see what's going on. So potentially what this should do is over here, when we handle our submit, I'm gonna do the same thing. So I'm just gonna set my log in error to that. Then this will say invalid incorrect username or password. Okay, so now say now I just do that, then I just enter. So this should say incorrect username or password. So this basically notifies this user in terms of that issue over there, right? So that's all good. That's what we want. Else, if this user is valid, then it should log them in. So now if we was to come here, grid right here, and actually try to paste this username, password 2, and you'll see that this user will be logged in, right? So now let's head out to actually implementing the actual sign up. So with signing up, I guess we'll also need something like of this sort. So we'll need this. We need to set like a use state, because basically, let me just reload this page. So basically, when we create like an account, what we need is we need the email password, right? So we'll just need an email, and then we'll need a password and a confirm password. Okay, then over here we'll also need something of this sort, which is a string. Okay, so this will be handle register. So this is const handle register, which is an async, then an arrow function. So this is all good, and we might also wanna come to the sign in and copy some code, right? So we might wanna paste this, okay, and okay, we might want to have this, right? Instead of having, so this will be an register error, and this is register error. So this is set register error. Okay, now we can go ahead and actually port this, right? So if this is an invalid email, it should give you that error down there, right? So another thing we would want to do is set this. So if we come here, we'll have this function for our handle input, and this will be set out to our email, which is good. This is gonna be set out to our actual password. That's fine. And then this is gonna handle our confirm password. All right, so what we should get now is, so we'll just go ahead and just call this, instead of going to the sign in, we'd wanna just handle that. So okay, so now if we go ahead and actually do this at gmail.com, so if we come over here and actually try to console log auth data, so if we go to the screen at gmail.com, we should be seeing something, right? So now the question is, why aren't we? Okay, I see that we've actually tied in. Let me remove this. Let me just do this first. Okay, we first want to see as to why we are not getting that. Oh no, this is set up to the wrong. So that was set up to the wrong thing, right? So this guy should still go to router.push to auth sign in. So that's fine. I think the button that I wanted to actually handle is this handle register. So yeah, so the moment I come here and actually try to enter this and that, it should console log something. Okay, so this is fine. Then because of the auth, it should follow the same principles, right, or logic. So here we'll have like an auth service. Then instead of login, we're calling in the register, and that's passing in that. And then this is gonna say registered, and then this is gonna set registered error, and we'll basically need to say what the error is. So okay, say now I want to register. The first thing I'd want to try out is register with something that already exists. Let's hope that won't work. Okay, then com. Alrighty, so once you've actually created this response, check that it's successful, and then over here you should get like some sort of message, right? So you'll say something went wrong, right? But obviously you wouldn't want to have this message. You'll just try to get that from the server, right? Okay, so over here we have this guy, and now let me go ahead and actually try to copy that, right? So come to the sign up page. So I'll have like an email error. So we've got an email, right? So it says that's expecting that. Interesting. Oh, I see why. That's because we've actually added this at the wrong place. So what we need to do is just under that, we need this guy. Then we're gonna have like a view. So we're gonna use a view to wrap that content over there. Then we're gonna need another view here. So this one would say, nope. So this, I'll just cut this and paste it here. And then so what type of errors do I have? So I've got a register error, and then when I have a password error, so when I set password error, so this is gonna be a pass. This is gonna be a password error over here. And how I'm gonna go about setting up this password error is if auth_data.confirm password is not equal to auth_data.password, then we set password error password do not match. Okay, so set password error over here. So this is a short thing, then just return so that we don't continue. Okay, say now I'm over here and say I say this and that. It says passwords do not match, and then say now I say still password do not match, password 123. Then if I use password 123, no, password 123. So ideally that should register. Nope. So once it's actually registered me, what I want to do is go to auth.signin page. So in my auth sign in page, that's where I'm actually then gonna sign in, right? So let me just try to copy this. Okay, now let's go. Okay, I didn't save that. That's why. So now if I try it out again with another one, so 3 pass, that should send me to that. Then if I just say I use 3, I know that this also user is also registered, but if I use pass, and this should actually log me in. So that's the whole integration that we were just trying to implement over here. So we've actually now integrated like our thumb talk app with our authentication. So if you like this video and you're new, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, peace.